Hey, what's up, you guys? Before we start this episode of Man on a Mission, which is going to be fire, by the way, I want to give a shout out to one of our main sponsors, Randy Oakes. Randy is an insurance broker to the stars, not only locally here in Coeur d'Alene in the Inland Northwest. Is he one of the most powerful brokers in town, but nationally has some of the biggest clients in America. Randy was introduced to me 15 years ago. I have been working with him since the day I got into entrepreneurship. And let me just tell you, Randy may be the reason I'm actually sitting here today. When you really connect the dots looking backwards, I cannot tell you how many times as our net worth grew, and as our foundation of our business grew, so did the assets and so did the liabilities. We have been hit so many times in business. And if you're an entrepreneur and you run a big business and you're a founder, you know exactly what this means. If you do not have a guy on your team like Randy Oakes that is an insurance broker that really understands how this whole world works, then when you get hit, it's going to be really painful if you do not have a guy like that that fights for you. We literally would have probably been out of business 2 or 3 times right now. We got sued one time, $40 million lawsuit. Turned into not a penny out of pocket for us because their legal team literally stepped up to the plate and ended up settling it, and it didn't cost us a dime, and we never lost our insurance, thank God, knock on wood. We had a jewelry store heist in our jewelry retail business that literally left us naked because we did not close down correctly, and that left our insurance void. I remember just being sick to my stomach when we screwed up, and we knew it, and Randy said, "Don't worry, man, I will figure it out for you. Let me go fight for you." And that was a nightmare process. It took months and months, but he finally literally leveraged everything, all his brand power in the world after a lifetime of being in this industry. And he made us whole, not a penny out. I just got to give him a huge shout out and thank you. I couldn't think of a better person to give this testimonial to. And I want to make sure that you guys know that if you have a business and you have assets, that means you also have liabilities. And if you have a net worth and it's growing, you need to protect them. If you don't know your insurance agent, or if you have some half-assed company, or even worse, if you hire Geico, I'm imploring you right now to reach out to my man, Randy Oakes. Not only is he a dear friend, but he's one of the most well-connected guys in America. If you have a business, trust me, and you listen to this and you trust me, and I do not vouch for anybody that I do not believe in. I won't do it. It's my reputation. Then I'm telling you, you need to hire this man. He is a life changer, literally life changer. And he knows everyone. One of the most connected guys in America, Randy Oakes. We will put his contact information in the show notes. When you need insurance, call Randy Oakes. All right, on with the show. Damn right I want to tell your story to the world. You're damn right I want to blow you up and promote your message. And you're damn right I want you to get even bigger, way bigger. We got Adam Kramer in the house today, all the way from Nashville. It's rare to get a 24-year-old with the mindset that he has. It's rare to get a 24-year-old in this room that's had the amount of success that he has. In fact, I think he's probably one of the most successful 24-year-olds in America today.
There's only one vision on the planet that's actually 20/20, and that's hindsight. So many people will just go out and bang their head against the wall, trying to do something new, trying to do something crazy, but they're too stubborn to actually either spend the money or take the time to learn from people ahead of them that have already done it. Using people to gain that hindsight that they've already done and avoid the wrong steps to find the right ones is what's catapulted us to the point that we're at.
What I love is that if you're going to be a guy that builds culture, you got to be the culture. I mean, you're setting the tone for the whole damn thing. Out of all the things I could give you accolades on, the genius part of you is how you built demand to want to work for you. And that is purely culture. When people come work for you, it's not just about making money. They're going to leave with something far greater.
Aristotle has a cool quote, is that we are what we repeatedly do. So in that, excellence is a habit, not an act. There's a lot of people that have a ton of potential in the world, and it gets wasted. When you put a 1%er in college to get into a frat, they're going to run that thing. You end up running into bad habits and doing a ton of negative stuff. We give them that environment where they can maximize their potential consistently. The culture comes from the fact that we attract amazing people, but we don't take anything less than excellence.
Okay, I think I want to start the Man on a Mission podcast first by saying thank you for listening. I got someone really special in the house today, a dear friend and client of mine, my youngest one-on-one client, maybe ever. I think I've had one guy your age or younger, but so it's rare. But it's part of my mission is to really bring in young people into this conversation. That's so much of what I do is to try to empower the next generation of leaders that are going to step up to the plate, find truth, find their voice, and really inspire the world. I mean, I've always said this before, that if I can impact one person that can impact 10 million, then my life had meaning. And that's something I try to inspire in everyone. So the fact that you've come into my life because of the brand that I built, that you've been following for 3 years, and one day you just decided to call, and that first conversation we have, I still can't sort of shake how valuable it was to sort of hear the depths of a 24-year-old's mindset. And so we got Adam Kramer in the house today, all the way from Nashville. Flew out. We're going to spend a whole day building content. I want him on the podcast. And the reason why, I think I'll just set the tone. If you're okay with that, Adam?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. You cool with it, Colton? Just setting the tone for sort of my objections on this one. A little bit different than our normal podcast episode in that I really have a few different intentions with what I want to do with Adam here. Number one, it's rare to get a 24-year-old with the mindset that he has. It's rare to get a 24-year-old in this room that's had the amount of success that he has. In fact, I think he's probably one of the most successful 24-year-olds in America today. He would be in the top 0.1%. I said that wrong. 0.00001% of success stories in America already, despite his age. That's how successful this young cat is. So for him to kind of come into my world and bring me on as a mentor, I thought was, this is really different in that I've just never met a 24-year-old that spoke the way you did. I started looking at what he did in his business. He's in the door knocking industry, which is like a really great industry. The more I've gotten to learn about the door knocking industry, I think when I first heard about it a few years ago, it was sort of elusive to me. It's like, people door knock? I don't know why. All these years in business, I was in retail, so it wasn't part of my game plan. But I realized on social media it was becoming a thing. Like, door knocking is a big thing. And
huge.
Then I met Sam Taggart. I was just on the phone with him. Sam Taggart is a hero to many young men in America. And I got some great stories about Sam. But Sam was kind of one of the icons that really built a brand around this industry. He was the one that really elevated what you can do in the door knocking space. And a lot of it, is in the solar industry, the power industry. There's so many products that do well when you go door knock. We're going to talk about all this stuff. But for a 24-year-old to achieve the amount of success that Adam is, pushing $1 million a month, forgive me, is that okay to say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just uncommon. You're not going to see a 24 in America doing those kind of numbers. It's a really cool, unique story already. But what I really want to do is sort of look at his brand at large and say, listen, man, you've built all these teams, all this energy, all this momentum, all this success, all this infrastructure, all these systems and processes. And the one thing that's clear is there must be a brand working somewhere to be able to sort of attract the talent you need to reach those numbers. But, and really in such a short time, but on the surface, when I looked at Adam, it was clear that obviously most of his time finding success was building the systems, building the team, sort of the guy in the background. He didn't necessarily step out in the light right out of the gates. And again, I think that's probably the good order of natural business, the way it should go. And so with Adam, when we started really kind of coming up with our master plan with how we were going to work together this year, it was clear Adam had a lot of intentions when he came to and knocked on my door. And then I had intentions right back immediately that I saw in him. And the first one was clear, is we need to turn your success story into a powerful brand that impacts and inspires the world, like at scale. And one of the things that I love to talk about is this idea of going all in. What is going all in? We were just around. He just flew to Puerto Rico with me. You were there. And, we're around the best in the world. We're around Phil Heath. I mean, you talk about like icons in sports. Phil Heath's one of those types of guys that even Kobe Bryant would respect and acknowledge. Like in the sports world, this is something I want to draw in as a conclusion to sort of the brand power of a Phil Heath. And you had to have unprecedented rare access with him all weekend. Is that the best in sports, the LeBron Jameses, all of them, they all tip their hat and nod to Phil Heath and respect him. Not every bodybuilder in the world has achieved that level of star power. You have like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you got Phil Heath, maybe Ronnie Coleman, but no one really has done it the way like Phil Heath has done it in our era. Phil's just a little bit older than me, but what he did in the sport was unprecedented. We got to go in depth, me and you, into his story, a story that he's never told the world before. And I got to really build a bond with such a great man. That's just one of many. We're around all these great people. It was interesting. You ask a 24-year-old to show up to an event like that's not cheap. Most people, within one day, he said, yep, I'm there, let's go. And it really showed me right out of the gates, this is a guy that can do things that the average person can't. He can move in ways the average person can't. And he's someone that I would really put on a pedestal and really put a lot of pressure on. It's like, all right, you got all this. Where's your brand? And that is something he just hasn't focused on. Well, that is the thing that we're going to work on this year. So instead of doing it quietly, we decided to sort of document this journey, tell the story, give the process, and really expose the truth and put some pressure on you, which we've talked about earlier in our vlog session.
Yeah.
We got a vlog now, guys. I think this all ties, hopefully. But what it looks like to go all in. We get to sort of become sort of the example out loud of how we're going to do this week in and week out, day in and day out, 7 days a week, of what it looks like to go all in on something like brand. Yeah. Now, this could be any part of your business, but it'll be cool to see what Adam looks like in a year from now. A guy that's already killing it, already the top of his game, and really we'll see where this goes from here. But when I think of the best in class, when I really think of people that are the top of their game in your industry, Sam Taggart, you know, a guy that created, I think, one of the best events in America, DoorCon. Incredible what he's achieved with his brand. And that's now a role model of yours, being able to sort of help you now, give you these connections, sort of leverage me and all the influence and the relationships I've built since you're so vested in me and now I'm vested in you. We're kind of sharing these relationships. But I just actually talked to Sam and I say, hey man, you know what's funny is everywhere I go, I seem to hear your name, that you're sort of a hero in someone's life. I got some great stories about Sam Taggart as well. But even today, when I told him I got this guy in the studio today who's a client of mine that you know, when we were talking about sort of his influence in his life, it was you, Sam, that had such a profound influence. And he laughed and he goes, bro, he goes, if you know Sam, this is how he talks. And this is a guy, by the way, that puts on like a conference every year that Ed Milet has spoke at, that, you know, is at like that Tom Brady level for sort of value and impact in the world. These are the types of speakers they're pulling in now. That's how big the industry is. I think it just tells a big story, but it's massive. I tell him about you and he goes, bro, sometimes honestly, I forget why I do this. It's like, why am I doing all this? And then I hear stories like Adam, and man, I got to tell you, man, it like brings tears to my eyes that I've had impact in even one person's life. Like, who would have thought? Me. And I think everyone feels that way when they start going into it. And then it's the people that go all in and that just don't stop, that one day look back and they've inspired like millions and millions of people. Isn't that neat to be able to do, to kind of see how influence works? Yeah. To understand that in 2008, he just said it right there. He didn't know what he was doing, but he did it anyway. But the key is he never stopped. Imagine being able to have your start, not his, with your influence now and who you're investing in. You get to skip and compress time. He didn't do it he couldn't do it that fast. He had to sort of do it such the organic way. Like certain people I just think are blessed with eyes to see. And what I witnessed, and we'll start the damn podcast, was the culture that he's building with young men all around America, with his teams, with everything he's got going on. It is a world-class operation already. Sort of the organization behind it, the thought that goes behind it, and the lifestyle that he's sort of promoting through the culture. It is so healthy in an era where America is addicted to porn. America is addicted to being lazy, being victims, blaming, complaining, bitching, moaning. Like this is sort of the reality. You have record suicide in teenagers, record depression in teenagers. Like you have such desensitization around so many things that are like literally, I think, some of the most cardinal sins in the world, where young girls all around America are making deals with the devil, like literally. And this is all being sort of accepted by mainstream and Hollywood and social media. To see a guy like you that can have 11,000 applicants when you go to a new city of young guys that are dying to work for you, and you're 24 years old. Yeah, you damn right I want to tell your story to the world. You're damn right I want to blow you up and promote your message. And you're damn right I want you to get even bigger, way bigger. And the only way you're going to do that at this point is to really max out sort of the capacity of what your highest and best use could be in life, is you're going to have to slay this dragon of sort of building that personal brand. And it'd be kind of cool to hear the whole story now as I pull back. I think we've really teed you up as one of the best in America, most successful 24-year-olds in America, in an industry, again, that has so much unique influence on the world. So I think we started. You're doing $1 million a month right now, bro. And again, like, you know, you're just getting started. Like the engine's just getting revved up. You're just starting to find your stride. These systems are just in place. What drives you to achieve at such a high level? And how did you honestly get to this point so quickly? Yeah, super good question. I appreciate the intro. That was solid. I like it. Yeah, what made it as fast as it was is, as we just saw with Sam, is going back and using other people's hindsight, right? Like there's only one vision on the planet that's actually 20/20, and that's hindsight. And
so many people will just go out and bang their head against the wall, trying to do something new, trying to do something crazy, but they're too stubborn to actually either spend the money or take the time to learn from people ahead of them that have already done it. And what's unique about my situation is how many people I've brought in, which is exactly why we're sitting across from each other right now, is understanding that people have already done what you're doing. Regardless if it's a unique industry, my industry, nobody's done what we've done in it, but there's so many industries just like it, right? And using people to gain that hindsight that they've already done and avoid the wrong steps to find the right ones is what's catapulted us to the point that we're at.
Well, out of all the answers you could have gotten, I don't think that you could have gotten a better answer than that. And that is something that comes with a lot of years of scar tissue, be able to absorb an answer so quickly like that. And anytime I ask a question, I'm always trying to answer it in my head. How would I answer that? And then I compare it. How's he answering that? And that is just spot on. That is how you compress time. 100%. And you're right. Nothing is that unique. Every thought, none of them are really that original. Even some of the best quotes in the world, I bet you someone else said that before that person. You know, you're just sort of recycling and making your own things that have happened before you. But at the end of the day, like, you put a lot of priority on that. You actually systematize that into your life. And what a way to shrink time. I think the door knocking industry, it's something that really was elusive for me. And now I'm really interested in it. Part of the reason I took you on the way that I have, and the reason I want to elevate you, is I'm always sort of looking for the opportunity to make sure my missions can have sort of the best gateway to win. And if you can find these unique win-win opportunities, it's genius. But, you know, the ideal avatar in my world is the 24-year-old who maybe comes from nothing, but has a little ambition, or maybe has a fuel, or as Ben Newman says, which we were just talking about, has the burn in them, or as Tim Grover talks about, which we just talked about, has some darkness in them, or has some pain or some trauma. I love to inspire that person. So that is the kid I'm really speaking to. It's the kid I used to be. And so naturally, when I'm looking at what you're doing inside this door knocking industry, I see so much opportunity there to not only like make you like a champion, really try to put a lot of vested fuel into you to go on and really take ownership of this, stand toe to toe with Sam, whoever's at the very top. Like, you know, how do you exceed all those expectations of what could be, and how do you really take your vision to the finish line? It'll be cool to see how you do it now, because you're already at a unique place. You already have a rare mindset. And, but now what do you do next? Well, I think the next part is to really go all in on the impact. But in this idea of a door knocking industry, a lot of people may not know exactly what that is. But it is drawing in a lot of like young hustlers. That'd be the best way to describe it. What do you think makes this industry so appealing to young people? And then how would you describe it to someone that's not so familiar what door knocking even is? Yeah,
what makes it super appealing to young people is that's where people are getting recruited from, right? And it could be a bigger thing of all ages, but it really takes a younger person to go out and be doing it. I mean, you're outside all day. You're having to grind. A lot of times you're having to travel. So if you have kids and that sort of stuff, it doesn't always work. So the majority of the marketing and targeting for recruiting is going to be the younger demographic. What makes it so impactful, if it's done right? Like, there's a lot of door-to-door companies that are going to burn people. But what makes it impactful in the right companies is that it's adversity by design. So no matter what, as you know, you've talked about, you said you feel bad for people that don't have trauma when they grow up. Like, you don't have that adversity. You didn't have to grow through something, right? Like, if everything's handed to you, you got nothing.
You don't appreciate it.
Exactly. So what door-to-door does is it gives you that adversity by design, and it gives you, especially in our company where you're traveling around with trainers and that sort of stuff, it also gives you a guide that's in your corner 24/7, and that group that can consistently support you through it. Because when you go from a 9 to 5, you go from college, you go from living with your parents to getting shipped across the U.S. in an Airbnb with 10 other dudes that are all running half marathons, 6-7 miles a day, going to the gym every day, fixing their diet, going out making $1,000 a day. Like, it is an intense environment, and it's incredibly uncomfortable, right? And those are the positions you have to put yourself in to be successful, and it forces them into it. And then next day you're going out and you're knocking on doors, getting rejection, getting people yelling at you, getting people telling you no. Like, it's not something you're just naturally going to be good at more often than not. So getting guys to get pushed into adversity and guide them through it with this proven process that we have, it's life-changing. Like, you can't beat it, and there's always somebody to catch you if you end up taking a deep dive on something.
This is what is so attractive to me is it's almost militant in a sense of what you do when you bring them in and how you build culture around it.
Yeah.
You're the leader of your organization. So at 24, the way you run your organization really is from my perspective, we talked about this earlier in our workout, is like a coach of an NFL football team.
Yeah.
There's only 53 men that are going to make this team. And I got 115 guys here in the preseason. Like, we only want the best, and the standard's going to either expose you and you're going to either level up or you're going to get weeded out quickly.
Yeah.
This is all culture building. And what you do is, this isn't guys making all this money and they're partying and having fun and screwing around all day. We're going to bed, we're sleeping, we're eating healthy. I mean, you push a carnivore diet, which, I mean, you haven't even had one cheat meal in a year for the audience, not one cheat meal in a year. It's unheard of, the amount of discipline. But what I love is that if you're going to be a guy that builds culture, you got to be the culture. I mean, you're setting the tone for the whole damn thing. But at 24 is what makes it so rare, is that it's a 24-year-old doing all this work and really setting the tone and building not only the systems and processes around the culture itself, but in the business also. You've really touched everything as you figured out how to build sort of, you know how business goes. You know, it's like you got $1 million, you got 1 million more problems.
Yeah.
But I've watched how you've sort of done it, got behind the scenes of you. And out of all the things I could give you accolades on, the genius part of you is how you built demand to want to work for you. And that is purely culture. This is where the gold's at in this interview. For anyone out there that runs a business, I guarantee your culture doesn't come near what his is. I've been on these in the back scene a few times of these calls that he does. And he's a CEO. He sits back and he watches. I see his little smirks, his little comments. They can't see that he's watching, but he's watching. I see how his team leaders are running the team. You see what it's like inside some of the homes they rent. You know, they go to their VRBO, and again, they're selling a big vision and a big dream. But for it all to be so militant and about discipline and about sort of mission, and again, like, describe some of your culture and how you built it and how that all came to be. To me, that's the money and the proprietary nature of what you actually do, is how you built demand to want to work for you, kind of entwined with culture, is sort of the real sort of core gift that when people come work for you, it's not just about making money. They're going to leave with something far greater.
Yeah. Absolutely. Aristotle has a cool quote, is that we are what we repeatedly do. So in that, excellence is a habit, not an act. And definitely not 100% on that quote. But essentially, your excellence comes from habits. And what we've done a really good job of is not so much bringing in anybody off of the street and just turning them into an animal, right? We are just very good at attracting 1%ers and instilling the 1%er habits in them that draw out the excellence, right? Because there's a lot of people that have a ton of potential in the world, and it gets wasted. And it's like you said, I mean, there's the porn addictions, there's the social media addictions, there's the drinking, there's the boozing. Like, yeah, you can, when you put a 1%er, somebody that has the potential to be 1%er in college to get into a frat, they're going to run that thing, right? And they come in, they're the leader. But at the same time, when you're leading that, you end up running into bad habits and doing a ton of negative stuff. We give them that vehicle and that environment where they can really extract that and just maximize their potential consistently. So the culture comes from the fact that we attract amazing people, but we don't take anything less than excellence. And there's always numbers that are tracked. You're in the house with a bunch of guys that are already doing it, so it's very easy to see when people don't fit in. Like, if you're not going on the runs, if you're not going on the workouts, if you're fine with eating Pop-Tarts in the morning. When I was in the houses, I'd throw them away. I would throw away anything that's junk food. Like, it's just not, that's not to our standard. That's not what we represent. And by doing that, it's created such an exclusive environment and such a high standard that everyone that actually fits is to a T, and they do not take anything less than what we've set.
What about like religion, God, mindset, spiritual stuff, biohacking? I'm just covering the gauntlet of things that I have. I want you to sort of speak to. There's so much that goes into building culture. We talked about it earlier. This is about getting people to buy in. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be a great leader and run a good business, people have got to buy in. They got to buy into the vision, and they have to buy in why they're going to go bust. And I think making money is definitely an angle that you can sell in the door knocking world, because when you're part of the right team, you can make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. These kids are, making $200,000-300,000 a year, and they're right out of high school, maybe more, right? But there's so much more value they're getting that has nothing to do with financial reward. And that comes from all these sort of like standards that are really set. I'm just kind of walk me through sort of the psychology of the whole thing, because from my perspective, thinking back when I was 22, imagine me in a house full of guys making all this money. This is Eric Rock speaking. When I was that age, I'd have chicks in there. I can't even imagine what it would have looked like. It would have been a frat house.
Yeah.
Because like we don't know how to handle that money. We're not that responsible. At least the 22-year-olds of my day weren't that responsible. And so to create that adult, first of all, that adult atmosphere was sort of a standard of like, hey, like, you know, I'm 18, I'm out of the house now. I'm going to go crazy and eat gummy bears all day.
Yeah.
You know, like the first thing kids do when they get their first apartment, you know, and they have a little bit of freedom. I'm just like, a lot of that, these are the kids.
Yeah.
And right out of the gates, they're coming to you and they're getting right down to brass tacks. Mm-hmm. Sort of the standard of the culture you built, it attracts them all. But you said you're attracting 1%ers. Two-part question here. Tap into all the things I said around culture besides just fitness, working out, sort of the mindset connection. How do you do it? How does that look? Like, are these daily team meetings? Are these morning rituals? Like how do you build culture? Because I've seen videos of you guys in the gym and everyone's buff and they got their shirts off and they're all jacked kids that have a ton of good energy. Like what do you look for in a 1%er? Because you're not going to see success in most young kids. So you have to look for something different. And I'll just speak to that point. When in our retail business, we attracted for decades entry-level young men. Moving furniture was our core business, was furniture is a young man's game, similar to door knocking. We built culture in an interesting way, but a lot of it was through entrepreneurship. We would sort of gift them that. But what I would look for in a person, just from my perspective, was actually a couple things. All I looked for was energy. If you had energy, I could work with you. What I had no tolerance for was laziness. I couldn't stand poor me, victim, lazy little bitch people. Can't stand it. Yeah. It's the one most off-putting thing is if you can't bring intensity, I can't work with you. But you could have come from a terrible past. You could have made a bad mistake. You could have gone to jail. You could have been a drug addict. I could work with anything that's not lazy. And sometimes those are the best people to sort of pull diamonds out of, the ones that have that sort of trauma and pain. I think most successful people in the world, if you were going to get the truth of their rock bottoms, you'll see why they're so successful. The somehow birthed out of that pain is so what is your process for evaluating a guy? And then once that person's in your program, give me the gauntlet of what you're actually coaching in that kid, because it's far more than just making money. It's far more than just eating good and looking good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to define the right person, it's almost easier to define the wrong person first. And I preach this into the team, especially the trainers and the managers, is the wrong person and how we're going to identify them is they are not willing to work as hard to change their life as you are willing to work to change their life for them. And a big piece of it is, like you said, the energy when they're coming in. Like what is their energy, but what are they doing currently? Like a lot of the guys that we have are coming from like copywriting. They're coming from Amazon FBA. They're coming from, they had a door washing business. Like they're already self-starters. They're already out there doing things. When someone comes in and they're like, yeah, I work 25 hours a week right now. And it's like, you're on a call right now and you know our marketing is around changing your life. And you're telling me that you're actually putting the effort to do that working 25 hours a week. That's not possible. Like you're not all in, and you talk about going all in. Like the guys that we're looking for are already all in. They just don't have the vehicle, the system, or the resources in order to make that happen. So that's what we're really identifying when we get into the calls, or like the discovery calls, or going through like video submissions that people put in. And I even phrase it on the calls that I dive into. I say, I'm going to get to know you for 15 minutes, and the rest of this call is going to be me trying to talk you out of this position. And when I go through that process, there are some people that are like, ooh, this isn't a good fit for me. But the ones that are like, I thought you were trying to talk me out of it. Like, this sounds amazing. Like, we're going through the core values, how driven. Exactly. It's like, if that sounds like a good fit for you, you're going to be just fine in this organization.
Such a good answer. What are your core values?
Yeah, it's the acronym is SOLAR. I have it on the back of all of our shirts, but it's self-improvement, open communication, leadership, accountability, and then royalty. And royalty is essentially treat others the same way you want to be treated, but if you act like royalty, you get treated like royalty.
As far as the standard in the house, from like a spiritual, I wouldn't say necessarily religious, because I'm sure you get guys from all walks of life. But is there some sort of standard and connection to gratitude, sort of the things that now in my 40s I prize the most, sort of moral conviction, sort of a standard for how we're going to be. We don't lie, integrity. Like, give me character, huge word for me. All these things that now I promote, like if you can't really be in my world, if you're not going to live up to a standard of character, moral conviction, you know what I mean? It's just, there's no room in my life for that, for anyone that's not going to sort of like put that mirror up and be really boldly honest. Is that a standard in the house that is a non-negotiable, or how do you look at those types of issues?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the accountability piece and the core values kind of wraps up on that side of it of being honest and not, I mean, they're taking accountability consistently within the house. Within the first 3 weeks, we call it the rookie phase. And within that phase, you get judged based on activity and you get judged based on values. I don't care how many sales you could bomb every single day and make 0 sales. You're still going to be on the team if you're keeping up with the activity and you fall in line with our values, because that's the people that we're looking for.
Because you could teach sales, you're
saying. Exactly, 100%. You can gain the skill set, but you can't gain character. That comes before they even get to us.
If you bring on a guy that's got all the things you want, but he's never sold before.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to turn him into a savage salesman?
Yeah.
And how important is that?
Yeah. It is definitely important, because after that rookie phase is when we start setting up metrics around the sales numbers that they're pulling in. But that's, of course, we're a traveling team, Airbnbs. I mean, there's a lot of overhead that goes along with it. So we have to have a high standard, which is awesome, because it puts that pressure on us to consistently hold that. But within their first 2 weeks, they're out there crushing out. I mean, in your first 2 weeks, almost every single person that stays with us has at least $1,000 day within that first 2 weeks they're on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you do $1,000 a day and you want to go real hustle, I mean, that you're doing 300,000+ a year easy.
Yeah.
And that's doable in your industry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No big deal. What's a top earner on a team look like? Best in class?
Yeah, so the best first month that we've had so far in our company, so they came in their first 30 days, what they generated was $25,000 in commissions. Yeah, and then
not bad.
We got math. 4 or 5 of them that are up in that above 20,000, then a ton of them that are right up there.
And for an 18-year-old sort of coming into this setup, it's amazing. But the life skills that are implanted in you at that age, you can then carry that into business. You told me something interesting in Puerto Rico. You said that when I onboard someone in our business, I tell them that I do not plan them working for me in 3 years, that they better be off to bigger and better. And I thought that was really interesting, because a lot of employers sort of try to trap talent. They don't sort of promote it to grow, to go into its highest and best use, to go pursue its God-sized dreams. Even if your vision really could house someone longer than that, you said it's not likely if I do my job correctly.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. My vision for every single person that comes in and how I've structured the company is every single thing that I've done to get to where I'm at. And I consistently pour that into them, like, watch what's going on. Like, you have seen a 10x growth in our company over the course of this year, and there's a reason for that. If you can understand sales and how to generate them, you can understand how to lead a sales team, and you can understand management, which is more managing systems rather than salespeople. If you can have those 3 things down, you have a revenue machine. The money can pay for the rest of it. You can pay for marketing, you can pay for accounting, you can pay for all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to revenue generation, that is the biggest thing to starting a business. And what these guys are gaining is not only the sales experience, the leadership, and the management, but they also get to see the recruiting systems that we're putting in place. They're watching me do this branding stuff that we're diving into now. And we're giving them education on the tax side of it. We're bringing in experts to speak that into them. So by the time they get to that 3-year mark, the amount of information that they have...
That's better than college education.
10x. Yeah, absolutely. Because when you go to college, you're learning how to build a 9-figure business from someone making 6 figures. Well, if you can take it from someone who's doing 7 figures a month, it's going to be a lot more valuable, because I've been putting this into play right in front of their eyes the entire time. So they get to pick it apart and really understand this is how to grow a real organization. And it's fulfilling to be that example, but it's going to be crazy to see what they do in the next 5, 10, 20 years. It's nuts.
Yeah, so many questions, man. This is such a cool interview to be able to get inside your mind and to expose to the world and to our audience and to future listeners who haven't found us yet, but they will.
Yeah.
What's possible at 24. I love promoting the message, because if we have a lot of young listeners, they're going to look at this and say, damn, he speaks a language that I don't speak. Well, if he can speak it, maybe you can go speak it too. Like, go figure out how to get into something and commit your life to it. Go all in. Mm-hmm. None of this is possible, you guys, without going all in. And all in means, like, let me ask you, what is work-life balance? That's a fun way to ask the question.
Yeah.
Tell me about work-life balance.
Yeah, I don't believe in work-life balance at all.
I've never met anybody who wins in life, like wins the way I want to win. Wins based on how I look at winning. Never heard anyone sort of like give anything but a deep frown to that statement. Because usually if the person asking it, it's all you need to know. The person that brings that up, it oftentimes is the reason that question gets so much disdain from people that are the highest achievers. It's not so much about time, but again, it's interesting asking a 24-year-old that, because you know how many kids I've worked for me that like work-life balance is something that they actually bring to the table. They do. And when I'm like, oh, you got more video games to play, whatever. You know, I mean, maybe that video game is going to create some ROI in your life. I don't know. I heard the kids are playing on Stitch and making a ton of money these days.
Yeah.
So like, what do I know?
That's one route.
But I'll tell you what, man, like that question is the most irritating thing in the world, where it's like, yeah, it's 5 o'clock. Because when you're all in, you give so much value that like the employer's saying, go home and go to bed. Oh, you want to win? You have big dreams? You want to make it happen? Well, that ain't going to work unless this is what it actually looks like. I think back to some of the most talented people I've ever met, talented based on how I determine talent. And they were the ones that were just savages for hours. They wanted it bad. They wanted to work. They may have not had any education or experience. And those are always the ones that go straight to the top in life. And again, there's not a balance in this guy's mind. Like he's going to bring so much value so often, be so everywhere that you can't live without him. And when you learn that takes an all-in attitude where balance is not really part of the equation, it's just all in. Like I give so much, I'm so valuable, you can't live without me. Pretty soon you end up owning the company. Yeah. You know, and those are people that I promote in life. But I've never asked that to a 24-year-old. Yeah.
People look at balance and they think like, oh, well, if you're not balanced, like there's no work-life balance, like you're going to get burnt out. But in my opinion, it boils down more to work-life harmony. And if your actions, and you're actually intentional with your actions, which is going all in is great and giving it your all is great, but you have to be intentional. It has to be deliberate or you're not going to get deliberate results, right? And when you are very clear on where you're going, what that vision is, and you are 100% certain that these actions today that I'm putting in are getting me closer to that vision, that are getting me closer to that goal, they become harmonious with the life you're trying to create, which is where you're going to generate fulfillment. That's where you're going to find purpose, is because it's harmonious to the life that you're building. And it's fine to make those sacrifices today because you know where you're going with it. Now, if you're just out there just grinding and going crazy and putting in a ton of hours, but you're not directionally focused, you're going to have that burnout. You're not going to have that balance. And if that ends up being, hey, I'm working for a boss right now, I don't like the company, I don't like my boss, they're asking me to work 80 hours, yeah, you're going to be pissed you're not balanced. But when you actually have that purpose, that vision, and every single day you're working towards that, it doesn't feel like work anymore. Even though you're all in, even though you're grinding, it's just not work. You're in pure harmony every single day.
Yeah, I think the word is wrong, like balance, because it implies time.
Yeah.
Like somehow it always is connected to actual time.
Yeah.
I think the real balance might be in everywhere I'm at, do I give it everything I got?
Yeah.
Just that alone is a good way to operate your life. I created this rule. Many people that know me have heard me say this many, many times. Just a rule of how I decided I was going to be for the rest of my life. And again, it's clear that like I have a mission. I have a sort of I always had a vision of where I'm going when I started winning in life. That's always kind of there. But it's this idea that I was just going to bleed in every room I entered. And I wasn't going to question anymore. And again, right or wrong, doesn't matter. It's what I did. And it always served me well. And because what came along with bleeding in every room, sort of that, it was like triggered effect. I might be nervous or have anxiety. And if I could sort of close my eyes and have a system, it's like a trigger of how I'm going to walk into this podcast. Just close my, take a deep breath. I'm just going to bleed. And I almost have to say it that way. When I enter the space, I'm different. It's like I raise to a different frequency. And I would bring that into every meeting, every room I entered. And I didn't care what people thought of me or how I might have looked. I realized the more I just started trusting in my gut of giving everything I had, just effort, pure effort. Even if I didn't have a full vision of where I needed this intentional meeting to go, or this idea of intentional focus, which is important, very genius to bring that into this conversation. But just as a way of being. You know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
The guy that became sort of known in the NFL for being a savage, the guy that's just going to go rip your head off no matter what. Like you build a character. That was my character. And what I found is like the people that have opportunities to give, oftentimes those people would see my intensity levels or the way I would communicate to something, because it was always sort of backed up with a standard of why that bothers me. Like bleeding can come in many different fashions of where I bleed, what energy I spice on something. But oftentimes, like, man, I was the one that separated myself within seconds from everyone else in the room. And right or wrong, maybe it didn't even help me in many cases, but it's something that I just went all in on, even something as simple as that. And I just think that it always advanced my position in life. Naturally, that's what I look for in people. Even if they don't have vision, though, you can determine how much effort you're going to give. If I'm here, I'm giving effort.
Yeah.
If I'm here, I'm going to give you everything I got. And as a way of being, beyond sort of having a clear focus, because a lot of guys just don't know. And it must suck to not know and aim and like kind of wondrously aim. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, wherever you're at, where your feet are, might as well give it everything you got. Like, what a better way to do it than be lazy? Like, is lazy a choice?
100%.
Like, I'm trying to think, is lazy a feeling? I can't remember what lazy feel like. Like I get anxious if I sit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I have disease. But I don't know many people that I think are doing really well that battle lazy.
Yeah.
Maybe you do. Maybe you have to sort of temperamentally like systematize it. But at the end of the day, that is something that we just don't see in winning ever.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we got this team, these young kids. I still think that a lot of people that may be listening to this may be looking at it, it's like, okay, so what does he sell? What you knock on a door, what are we selling? And I'd love to sort of then connect the dots to how you teach selling, which is one of the best topics out there. But what are we selling?
Yeah.
You want to talk about your business?
Product?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very unique. So it's very niche. Anytime that people think of solar, they think it has to go up on the house, think it has to be on the rooftop. We sell what's called community solar. So rather than actually doing an install on a property, we just deal with solar farms. So one gets put up in an area, since it's hooked into the grid, anyone within that local community that's on the same grid can opt in to receive local renewable energy at a discount. So it's simple enough. We show up to the door, we're knocking on the door. Hey, you have a solar farm that's gone up. You guys pay for this through taxes. If you opt in for it, you're going to get a fixed 10% discount moving forward. So it's a relatively easy sell. The only tough thing is you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't smell it, and you don't have know, like, and trust because they have no idea who you are, never heard of this product, as anyone who's probably listening has never heard of what community solar is. And of course, it's through a company that you've never heard of. So you're really
a lot
just
of barriers.
It's just credibility is what you're building the entire time, just building the rapport with the customer.
Yeah, and so what am I giving up if I'm the customer?
Yeah.
And what am I gaining?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think, how are you going to sell me?
Yeah.
Grumpy Eric answers, what do you want?
Yeah, it's really all that they're giving up is time. At the end of the day, either way, you're going to be paying an electric bill. But what you're opting in for is that you can now purchase energy directly from a solar farm, and it's going to be at a fixed savings for you. Now, if you end up hating it, there's no contract.
So you're saving money.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so there's the draw. That's the gain. Yep. I'm saving money, and I'm opting into a renewable energy source.
Exactly.
If that's important to a person.
Yep.
Which I think
and it's local.
Every steward should be.
Yeah, a lot of states don't even have local energy production, right? They're shipping it in.
So does it give your dollar to instead of to the big energy company, does that dollar now get routed somehow to the local energy farm company, or how does that work?
Yeah, so moving forward, since they're producing electricity on your behalf, you purchase it directly from them, but it's still going through the same utility company. So you don't have any interruptions with service, doesn't change your service. If your power goes out, all your neighbors' power goes out. You're still on the same
so you're
grid.
not independent of the normal energy supply.
Nope.
You just have a cheaper rate.
Exactly.
On average, how much cheaper is the bill?
It's a fixed 10% savings on all
10%.
the energy produced. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and there's still good margin, obviously, for you guys coming to turn that into a business.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Does the solar farmers hire you? Is that how that works?
Yep. So anybody that builds a solar farm, either we've reached out to them, we have contract with them, and then we just go out and they'll typically now, since we've got big enough, they'll set aside exclusive contracts with us. So we just go out.
All over America?
Yeah.
And so this is where you see this opportunity. You've obviously started as a one-man show, likely.
Yeah.
You start building, hey, I got this great business. We can go scan this neighborhood. You know, this is what we can do. You now become sort of the leader. You build a business around it. You know, you actually structure it out. Now you have so much opportunity. Am I reading this right? Where you can go into different cities all over America all at once by having different teams in different places that are just scavenging, knocking, getting contracts signed, and this is how the business works.
Exactly. Yeah, nailed it.
And so, I mean, you're not really selling anything. There's not like a product that you can hold, see, or touch, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's a really awesome selling point because a big piece when you're showing up to the doors.
I'm not selling anything.
Exactly. You need to differentiate as fast as humanly possible that I'm not just your typical salesman, and you'll do that regardless. Whether you're selling internet, pest control, or solar, the guys that do it best is they differentiate. Like your story on the pest or the pest guy.
I don't know if did I fully tell that here or just to you?
Yeah, you dropped a little bit of it at least. Yeah.
You told it.
In the podcast.
Yeah.
So you know what he's talking about? That's crazy. Like, if you can get a pissed off guy in his underwear who just got home after a long trip and his eyes hurt, and I just snuggled in bed with my wife, and I was just like letting it all. I was like, that was such a great trip, but God, I'm tired. And then the door rings, and like that, you know, when everyone freezes when the door rings.
Yeah.
And like I had these.
Oh, I've seen it through the windows.
Middle of summer, big glass sliders open. Middle of summer.
Yeah.
And we have a master floor that's on the same level as the front door. It's over here, and there's this big deck off the master. So here's this guy. Here's the glass door. I'm laying in bed right here, and I'm like, who the f*** at the door? Cussing, not happy, like grumpy Eric. And I know now, it just clicked. I was like, oh my God, he can hear everything I'm saying because the huge glass wall is open. And so now I'm tiptoeing. It's Sunday night at 8:00 at night, and this guy's there, and I'm going to rip his head off. I just could feel it. I wasn't in a mood. And here I am in my skivvies, and I open that door like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
What? You know what I'm saying? And that guy disarmed me like in 2 seconds. And he started talking about my neighbor, asking me about one of my neighbors. And I don't even know what he's saying. I'm still not happy. But it didn't take long for he disarmed me so much that I'm now pouring into him. Is this a sales tactic? But I asked him, I said, hey, who taught you all this? And he said, Sam Taggart. That's where the whole Sam Taggart thing came in. But as far as selling at a door, that's a skill. It must suck to cold. You know, I worked at a company when I was I think I was like actually a senior in high school. It was called Quintus Marketing. Around dinner time every night, I'd have to cold call people and sell them a trip to Wally's Hot Springs on the phone. And I'd close the most amount of deals in the history of that company. I set a record within like my 3rd week working there. I collected 1 commission check and I quit because I hated it. I'd never do that. Because 9 out of 10 calls are people cussing you out. It's dinner time. You know, you heard it all. And somehow I was savvy enough to not just get them on the hook. I was supposed to send them to the closer. I just closed my own things. I got it quick. And I think it was maybe a natural skill in a person to do that. Can you teach sales to anyone? I think that was natural for me, but.
Yeah, I think, can you teach sales to anyone? Absolutely. How fast can you teach them is going to be the better question. There are some people that have come in, activity is phenomenal, and it just takes them too long to end up catching up to it. But
is it because they're scared? What is the flaw in a person that can't sell?
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot of limiting beliefs, right? And it's all about attitude, and it's about your EQ. And Rene talks about this in his book. But IQ is not what makes you successful, right? IQ doesn't. It works in some places, right? Like if you're working at Google, you need high IQ. But at the end of the day, the number one paid skill is communications. Communication skills are the highest paid skills regardless what company you go to, regardless what industry you're in. And EQ is just emotional intelligence. Not only how well do you understand your emotions, but how well do you understand how your actions affect other people's, and how much do you understand how you're making this person feel and what their actions mean, right? Yeah. And you need to be able to dive into that, and you need to truly understand that in order to be successful in sales. And some people don't come jam-packed with that, right? Like they have that social awkwardness to a certain level, so they're not picking up on those small cues where guys like you, where you come in and naturally crush it, just came like
savviness.
Exactly, yeah. You
be able to read the room.
Yeah, and that's a crucial step in it, and that can take a long time to understand, because when you have those limiting beliefs and you're so worried about you're not focused on anything else, right? You're not focused on how you make them feel. You're just worried about yourself and your ego currently. So when you can't break out of that and you don't take the time or effort to dive into who you are and really get that like solid and be 100% certain when you're at that door, people read right through that shit. I mean, people's BS meter is insane. Yeah. And especially when it comes to a salesman knocking on the door, it's immediately triggered. Right. So yeah, that's the tough piece with it, but I can guarantee anybody can learn. It's just how willing are they to actually make the changes.
Yeah, and sometimes, been there, done that. You have a little bit of scar tissue. You're a weathered, kind of seasoned old bull.
Yeah.
EQ and being able to read the room is a lot simpler than like the younger version of you.
Yeah.
So if you doing this at 24 with a bunch of young kids, it's really phenomenal. You build culture around it. Do you have training sessions around this as like sort of the priority of how you onboard people?
Yeah, so we have virtual trainings that they'll take before they even get out. I think it's like 3 or 4 hours that we have of virtual trainings, and then as soon as they're done with that, they're out in the field with the team. But we have one of the biggest things that's really supercharged the business. I'm a huge believer in sales recordings. Have you ever done recordings?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. It was a Zig Ziglar thing. Like I listened to a lot of Zig Ziglar, and he said put it on like the cassette player because obviously
I've played my own. Yeah.
So they now have apps that have AI built into them where you can go and click record all day long. You're knocking on doors, and as you're knocking on doors, it's chopping up the conversations into each individual conversation. But it also gives you what are their words per minute in that conversation because you need to speak at about 170 in order to maximize your sales. It's how many questions are they asking? How many recordings are they actually taking a day? How many are they listening to? Mm-hmm. Because every time you close a sale in our company, you mark it as sold, you mark it as posted, and it shoots it to a company board. So we have a database of 10,000 plus sales that are just, you can go in and listen to top performers. What are they saying? How are they getting over rebuttals? What's their tonality, A to Z? And trainers can also go in and start actually like diving into their sales conversations. Like this is your tonality's off, like your cadence is off, whatever it is. And really just pick it apart and nail it down with them.
And once you're aware of this, do you think it's easier to correct it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that idea. What gets measured can get improved.
Yes.
If you don't measure it, it's much harder to improve it.
Yeah. It's also one of those things when people hate hearing their own voice, right?
I hate hearing mine.
Yeah.
I cringe.
Even though you've seen it 100 times. Yeah.
Can't do
you've
it.
seen it thousands of times at this point.
I saw a thing I did with Phil Heath.
Yeah.
I literally looked at the second I heard me talk. I couldn't watch it. I can't watch it, and it's like, I suck.
You're your biggest critic, though.
Yeah.
So and we even went through a content review yesterday, and I'm just like, nope, not doing that one. That's on me. Like you guys didn't do anything wrong. That's on me. I'm not posting that shit. Yeah. And like for them, it's like, well, I don't see anything wrong with it.
No, everyone's like, no, it's great. I'm like, you're stupid.
Exactly. But you'll find those little things that it's like, oh, you say basically a lot, or you say like too many times. And as these guys go through it, you ask them, it's like, well, what do you feel like you would change out of this conversation before you even give them coaching?
Yeah, right.
And they're going to be way more of a critic on themselves. And they end up, as soon as you go to say basically the next time, it clicks in your mind.
Sure.
And you may say it, but after 1 or 2 times, you're done.
Do you recommend every person listen to themselves and
100%.
Actually fight to get through it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think in general, especially sales, sales for sure. If you're in sales and you're not doing sales recordings, you are missing out on an insane amount.
You know what's interesting? The only time I've ever watched myself and I'm like, damn, I was sharp right there. It's a time when I'm doing what's not natural for me to do.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre. It's a time when I really slowed down, paused in between thoughts, had a rhythm and a cadence that's up and down. And it's like, that's not my style. My style is just to bleed.
Yeah.
When I'm bleeding, though, I can't fathom listening to myself. And it makes me wonder, man, how many people are so sick of hearing me? It's such a wake-up call. It is. But it's hard for me to go in all polished.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not my style. But I think there's also the other part of it, the authentic me that I trust in the moment. I'm not questioning why I'm doing it. It works because the energy and sort of the belief in me. And also, I think if I'm in a real sales situation, I think naturally I do know how to pull back, tone it. You know what I'm saying? There's like authenticity in it. But if I had to listen to, I think like just my natural self, it's so hard. So when I like myself, it's like, but could I be that way all the time? I don't think there's you know what I mean? I don't know if you could be on for a sale and then try to be on that way with every person you meet in life. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Or do you think that could all sort of be a symmetry and a chemistry behind a personality that sort of naturally adapts? Like, I wish I loved hearing myself when these rare times like this all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could be so, like this. Because I'm like, I'm fresh. God, I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? But over here, it's like, that guy's weird. Cracky.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, as you do it, if you're consistent, like door-to-door sales, these guys are doing it every single day. Like, they're waking up and it's like, yeah, we're working out, they're eating breakfast, they're hanging out for a bit, but majority of their time is spent communicating. And
yeah, but is that how they would communicate? Is it different outside of a sales? I guess where the heart of I'm going, and is that even important?
Yeah.
Is this talking to a buddy? Is that a skill that should be mastered the same way, like inside an actual sale would be? Because for me, I think it is different. I can go into sale mode, and it's quite a bit different, actually, I think, than sort of the organic me, or even me building content. I'm just pouring out like Eric Rock guy's style. I don't think I'm like that in a sale. So I can kind of become a chameleon based on the customer's energy, based on what I'm feeling around a person. Especially if I'm selling something, I literally have that ability to adapt. Is that important sales?
Yeah. So no matter what conversation you're in, whether it's sales, friends, family, whoever, when you're communicating, you're either building resistance or you're building rapport, one or the other. So no matter what in the conversation, in my opinion, you need to have those communication skills to transfer over, and you should be conscious of it. And especially when, like, if EQ is high, you can tell based on body
rapport
language
always.
if you're building rapport with somebody. You can tell if you're building resistance. You should be able to, right? And keeping that in the back of your mind consistently and applying that to every single conversation only makes stronger connections. So in my opinion, yes, these guys are doing that consistently. The reason I say that, like, they're out there knocking doors all day is it transfers over automatically. Like, they don't even do it on purpose at this point, that they're talking slower, that they're worried about body language, that they're mirroring you, right? Like, they're doing a lot of things throughout just regular conversations that are just happening natural at this point because it's just subconscious. So, yeah, I would say absolutely it transfers over, and it should transfer when you want it to.
I just mirrored you.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel that? You feel the sales effect coming on?
Yeah, there's the rapport.
I got you, baby.
Yeah.
Sold. That's cool. How important is humor and, like, sort of bringing out natural characteristics into a sale that, like, makes someone unique and special?
Yeah, for me, I used a lot of the same jokes, but I knew, like, what would get people to get a kick out of them. But for me, as Andy knows, I could say the same joke 15 times and still thinks it's hilarious.
You think it's funny?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I'm the only guy laughing at my jokes, too.
Yeah. Hey,
like,
you only need one person to laugh for it to be funny. So, yeah, I think, humor's huge. It breaks down so many barriers. Like they say, laughter is the best medicine. I mean, that's for a reason. You can take any resistance down that people have, and that was always my goal. Is if I ever had a burnout day, I drop the pitch. I say, screw it, I'm done with it. I'm a robot today, and I'm not bringing the emotion that I need. And these next 5 doors, my only goal is to get this person to laugh. And that was the only focus that I would put on it is how do I make this person laugh? And
so it's not about the sale anymore?
Not even close.
Would you get a sale, though, oftentimes?
Yes. Yep. And it was either I'd get the sale or I'd bring my attitude back up to the point where I can dive back into the pitch and start closing it.
That's good advice. I mean, that's really recalibrating your frequency, and that's a clever way to do it. It's a good system, actually, to teach. I think the audience, we've given a really good perspective. You hear all this? Of why he's so successful and how he communicates, every answer, how he's communicating. For a 24-year-old, it's pretty genius. So to be able to sort of turn this into a brand that now inspires the world is going to be amazing. One of the questions I had on here is, in an industry where most people are just focused on sales, something we just got done talking about, you built something that feels much bigger. There's a mission, I can just feel it, that's behind you. Do you have a mission? What is your mission, and how does that drive you?
Yeah, it is a lot bigger than sales, for sure. My mission is, of course, to impact as many people as humanly possible. And not just in the sales world. And I think that what actually started our conversation was diving into more of a nonprofit side of things.
Right.
And the more I dive into, like, givers gain regardless. Like Zig Ziglar says, if you'll never, you'll have everything you want in life if you help everyone else get what they want.
100%. It's a great quote.
And the more I dive into that, the more purpose, the more fulfillment, the happier I am, the more that I'm driven to do bigger and better things. And for me, it's not only for me to go out and change the world and impact a ton of people, but it's teaching everybody else that's on my team, like, this will have a profound impact on who you are, how you feel about yourself. If you start diving into it, which is why we're trying to get that nonprofit started and get our entire team kind of wrapped around that, make that kind of like the center focus of what this is. Like, it's not just about you changing your life, making a ton of money at 20 years old. Like, it's about what we're doing with it and how much of an impact that we're going to have on this world. So I think these guys are going to see something crazy. I think everyone's going to see something crazy on what we build and how much impact that in your 20s, if you have the right mission, you have the right focus, intentional focus, what kind of impact you can truly have.
Yeah. It was kind of funny. He asked me about charity. It's good because charity is a huge part of what we do.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of why I'm even here. But I would say at 24, there's no greater charity in the world that you could bring to the world than to rebrand yourself as one of the most powerful brands out there in your industry and really take ownership of that.
Yeah.
Because the amount of people you're inspired that are going to naturally, the amount of lives that could change because you went all in on that is sort of the core component, with the kind of philanthropy being the guiding North Star. Again, separate from sort of how we would normally think about philanthropy, but the amount of lives and that you could impact through that lens is probably far greater than any money you can raise. And that's what's hard for most people to understand, is they don't realize like what a valuable gift this is. It's funny, I've asked so many people this question, including Ed Milet, if you can go back and do one thing differently, what would he do? Most people say they wouldn't do anything differently, but if they could go back and do one thing differently, this idea that, I would have gone all in on brand sooner. That's exactly my answer too. I was like, why did I avoid this for so long? Mm-hmm. Like I could have been doing it like a decade earlier. I could have got there before there was even an Instagram. I could have got there when the algorithm was like loose and ready to be, you know what I mean? But nope, I didn't. I resisted it. I fought. I had all these stories behind it. I'm not good on camera. I hate cameras. I just couldn't do anything. All the can't. So I'm going to build business the old fashioned way. But the truth is the amount of charity, quote unquote, I do through impact far exceeds how much money I can sort of raise without anybody knowing me. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And again, like it's hard to understand the butterfly effect of how you look at what Sam Taggart's done. Touched thousands of guys that claim that he's their hero.
Yeah.
In an industry that you would think like how much charity could possibly come out of the door knocking industry. Well, you know how many fathers he's helped, how many mothers he's helped, how many children he's helped, because he gets sort of the man in the family to sort of level up their life, sort of go all in on something that you really could change the trajectory of their life forever.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just a cool concept to sort of consider as we sort of banter about like best way to make sure that philanthropy is at its core. But there's no better, I think, sort of starting place than to making sure that you prioritize, especially now in your life. The number one thing in your life is exposing yourself to the barbarians of the world, the thing we're all afraid of. It's like, what are they going to say about me? What are they, it's whatever our objections are with this idea of stepping in the arena, stepping in the stage, even as public speaking is a core concept, is a greater fear than death. If you promote that in others because you do it yourself, I think your effect, especially if you bring on a charity, like what we're talking about, will be far greater than if you just quietly sit on the sidelines. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Brand's something we're going all in on, and maybe you can shed some light sort of where you think you want to take this brand this year, make some declarations of what you want to do with it. Yeah.
I think I've attempted multiple times. I didn't go all in by any means when it came to building a brand, and a lot of.
Did you avoid it?
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would say I avoided it to a certain degree. Yeah, because I wasn't consistent on it. So I had to be running from something. A big piece of it was that I never liked talking about things that I'm not sure on. Right? Like if I'm going to put a message out to the world, I want it to be valuable, and I don't want to have to come back later, because I will if I'll fall on my sword. Like I didn't.
A good way to be.
Yeah, I had no idea. Like I don't want to put out information, at least to people that I'm not certain on, or that I haven't put into play that has worked for me, right? And that's where I feel like I've gotten to the point of is it's undeniable at this point on our systems, our frameworks, the mentality around how we build it, how we build culture. It works, and I know it works. So that's why I have a lot more confidence. I have a lot more certainty that I can really bring to the table that I didn't in the past. The goal with it is really impact, of course, but that's obviously a broad word. I know that a massive issue right now in any kids in all reality, up to 25-year-olds, they lack direction, they lack purpose, they lack fulfillment, they have no idea how to truly make it, right? There's a million influencers out there that want to tell you what to do, but nobody actually gives you, besides a freaking course that doesn't actually have any value in it, nobody gives you a blueprint on how to do it. Nobody gives you an actual environment where you can go and place yourself into and actually nail it. Like you can get a Discord group, right? But that's not accountability every day. Like you have to take the initiative to go in there. Like they'll have 1,000 guys in there, maybe 30 of them are active within the group, right? So giving people real tactical advice, real value. This is how you get it done. These are how you find the groups. We have the group if you want it, right? You don't have to leverage us. You can go out and do your own thing. But really helping people understand, like, this is how you go from where you are now to where this big vision is, instead of listening to everybody else that has these massive pressures on you to get the 9 to 5, to find the girl, get married way too soon, to go to college, like whatever those things are, that the shoulds, right? Eliminating those and actually putting into play things that are going to change their life. And that's really the goal with it.
Well, how did you build so much demand? Like really not that long of a time, because if you correct me if I'm wrong, you go in a new city, you might have thousands of applicants that want to come work for your team. So that's obviously a brand somewhere that's flexing in the marketplace that has got eyeballs. And if it's not through you as the leader, where is that coming from and how did you do that?
Yeah. A huge amount of demand came from, the social media side of it, of course. It's really easy when you can flash numbers, and our numbers are all real. I do not allow anybody on the team, if they're talking numbers, you cannot skew them. Like I will not stand for, you're deleting the video, right? If you post anything that is
false,
exactly, it's gone. Like
good for you.
I have zero reason to have people look at us. Yeah. Why would you? You don't need to. 2,000 a week is quite a bit for people in 18 to 22.
Absolutely.
But when you're making 3, 4, and you can show those checks, like it's almost unbelievable for a lot of guys.
Sure.
So that's an easy way to flash, but where the actual...
So it's in your guys though, the ones that are making the noise?
Yeah,
they're really helping you draw in more young blood.
Yeah. We've had 18,000 people this year reach out to get information on our company.
Crazy.
Which is insane. People don't even generate those kind of leads for a product, let alone
well, you know what that means? That means everyone that you're incentivizing that's on your team to go promote this, that you have the culture and the heartbeat of your team drawing in all the eyeballs. That's not you though.
Yeah.
It's within your organization, and I'm sure you inspired it and you've really sort of triggered the sparks in their minds.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure you promote that, which I think is genius, but you were able to do that all without sort of making that the number one priority in your life.
Yeah.
Which I think for brand to thrive, it needs to be, I call it like sort of the spearhead that penetrates the market, and everything else, even all the other businesses and responsibilities, and I sort of fall behind that as the singular priority. And that's just kind of how I've looked at it now that I do it. Like, so I had to place it at sort of the number one priority, because I was so resistant to it naturally myself with the story I told. So, but you were able to sort of sit on the sideline, not on the sidelines, but behind the scenes, and let that spearhead that's penetrating the market, that's sort of attracting all the eyeballs on what you do. Were these sort of the key people on your team, or were all of them sort of promoting your brand and your message for you?
Yeah, it's one main guy that's brought in a good portion of it. He's one of my sales managers. We've had several other guys that have brought in quite a few. But I would say like a good 30% of the team post consistently, whether that's TikTok.
Do you promote that in your
absolutely
in the brand?
Yeah. So we would definitely promote it. It was, the social media side is great for attracting a lot of people. You can get a ton of leads. You can get a ton of people to start coming through the door.
So everyone's hooked.
But the ones that the most powerful recruiting is when they get into our organization and they're a right fit, and they know 10 other people.
Oh, word of mouth, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Birds of feather flock together.
That spreads fast, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. The fastest way to double revenue is to figure out how to get a referral from every customer.
Right.
And that was my focus is, you guys can be the front side of it and you can bring in a ton of leads and everything, but it's my job to make sure that the experience when they get here is creme de la creme of what you can have in any door-to-door organization. So that's been my major focus is what resources do they need? What programs do they need? What systems need to be in place in order to get these guys from zero to hero within a week?
Sure.
And that's the most powerful recruiting.
There's a lot of lessons in here for people that especially employ young people. Look what you can attract talent-wise and how you can do it. I actually don't think, door knocking or not, I don't think it really matters. The industry that you're in, I think all these principles align perfectly for sort of attraction of the best that you can for like what you do. It's sort of, I think, is all embodied in culture and what in the brand that you're sort of building. Now, as you sort of step out in the light yourself and sort of make this declaration that you're going to go all in for the rest of your life, something my mentor made sure I knew that I was going to do this for the rest of my life with no expectation of return. Just going to do it till you die. And I just like sort of the bold sort of phraseology of that. It landed for me and it worked. Like, I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life and not care what anyone thinks. Okay, good. I needed sort of like that, like till death do us part sort of connection. I think that I might have been missing that. But you are now going to take this endeavor on. One of the things I think is cool is we're going to highlight this story where you're really going to start doing it just like everything else in your business, it's a system that's sort of lifelong in its approach. Sort of the cost of doing business is now as part of the budget is to get this right. How are you going about sort of building a brand? And I want to like encourage a lot of listeners to sort of follow you, champion your journey, cheer you on, watch what you teach and how you build culture and brand in your world. And a lot of these people, I think, could adopt some of this stuff in their own business. So what is your approach there? What is your strategy? How are you going to do it?
Yeah. As of right now, it's like figuring out what the main goal is, right? Like keeping that in mind as we build it. So at least we know what kind of messaging that we're going to put out. And you're of course going to be a huge help on that because you've done it a lot longer than I have. But yeah, figuring out what's going to appeal to the audience that we're looking for, which is of course the younger generation of people, which is what we're looking to attract. And that of course can get them into the company and employed. But what are they looking for? What changes do they need to make? And if we have this perfect avatar of a person that's coming in, what kind of messaging what's going to attract them? What are they looking for? And a lot of times, yeah, money right away brought a lot of people in, but we've switched it in the sense of like, this is a growth opportunity. Yeah, there's a ton of money tied to it, and that's just proof of concept that it's going to work for you. But that's not the messaging we're putting out because I don't need guys that are money hungry because you're going to get them how you lose them, right? Or you're going to lose them how you get them. So it's a lot more geared towards the adversity side of things and pushing through that and the person that you're becoming on the other side of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you find a lot of these guys coming in come from trauma? They come from like messed up childhoods.
Yeah.
They're broken in some sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Repairable, but broken. Yeah. Right.
So not all of them are, I mean, what percentage of them are coming from like quality homes where there's a loving mother and a father and they grew up with no, just a healthy home life?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say a good 30%. But I mean, of course, you got to look at like divorce rates right now are 50%. I think it's over 50% on divorce rates. Like the amount of healthy homes.
And that always hurts a kid, but
not always,
degrees
not
of
always,
it.
For sure.
Some kids bankroll it. I mean, it's like an opportunity.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I had did not see a clean divorce, thankfully, because it put me here. But yeah, there's a ton of guys that come in with, alcoholism. They had a DUI. They can't even drive right now, right? There's guys that came in with drug problems. We had no idea. Would we have hired them if we knew that? It would have been tough to say. But now that they're here, they're completely clean and they're good to go, right? And those guys are the ones that are most grateful, which is crazy. The ones with the healthy homes, they definitely reach out and like, hey, like, thank you. But you can tell, like, when you talk to the ones that have had that past where they saw where their life could have been going, and it was just that this came up at the perfect time, at the right place, and completely 360 for them. Like you can see that passion when they talk to you. Like it brings tears to their eyes, and then I start tearing up, and I'm like, damn, like it's just so powerful.
That's where all the meaning's at.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's like a family.
100%.
Yeah, it's like a brotherhood.
Yeah.
Any women come into this? Is it just kind of a man thing?
So we've started the girls team side of things.
So it's a team, a girls team.
Yes,
because you don't want to have the guys sleep in the same house as women because you're traveling on
22. Yeah,
because if you go into Fort Lauderdale, we're making a random city up. You may attract, and if you're in a new city and you got a new territory that you've sort of got a contract for, you now have to go build a team for that area, or you may send a team there. But if you are scaling and growing, you have demand to sort of hire on new, train them, you go in with a core team, you can essentially attract people, not just from Fort Lauderdale, but from all over the country. So they have to sleep in an Airbnb. I wonder if that was elusive to some people, that you are bringing people that maybe from Washington, D.C. across the United States, and they're going to live in this area till they get every single house knocked I don't know what the standard is, but so these people are living in a town that's not theirs. It's not long enough to rent a home. So you're going to do it together. It makes sense for you to cover the cost of like hopefully a sick Airbnb. Is that part of the standard?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might as well. Dude, that's part of the culture, right? Is that they get to live, eat, sleep, and like quality. 100%. That's part of what it looks like to get. For you, I'm sure it's a reward to offer that because it wasn't always that way, right?
Yeah, no, not even close. Yeah, not even close. The houses, that was a big vision that I sold at the beginning when there was like 4 of us sitting in a house, and I'm like, just wait until it's like beach houses, like ocean view homes, like there's gonna be water slides and pools, exactly.
Play at night in the ocean.
Yeah, and it was like I'm painting this picture of a year later, but it all happened within 2 to 3 months.
That's why people trust you, because if you can't set a vision and then deliver a result, they won't show up. People got to believe in you. And that means that it's got to be more than just a vision set. They've got to see progress towards that vision.
Yeah.
It's so important for a leader to understand this. And that means you can't just be talking, out of you really have to become someone that delivers.
You have to believe it. Like you have to believe it yourself, and it's
that too. Yeah.
Your ability to succeed is your ability to believe in the make believe. Like you have to be able to 100% believe that I am going to get here, and I don't care what the hell gets in front of me. I am going to make it to the place that I've painted out in my mind. And there's nothing that's going to stop me. It doesn't matter what comes up. I'm going to bob, I'm going to weave, and I'm going to get to that. Yeah. And when you have that certainty that that's going to happen, it's almost a guarantee. As long as you're deliberate with your actions and you're consistently working towards it, you're going to hit it. And when your team is behind you and they see that, and that's like the most powerful CEOs on the planet, are the guys who have this massive vision. They set the plan on exactly how they're going to get there. They speak it into their people every single day, letting them know this is where we're going. This is how you're going to be a part of it. This is where you fall into this vision, which is what I do on a daily basis with my entire team that I come in contact with. And then you just go and you just put every single thing that you have into it, and they watch and they see as you hit these milestones, these achievements 10 times faster than they would have ever thought that it was possible. And then boom, they're not going to leave your side, right? They're going to be all in just as hard as you are, seeing how much that they can accomplish.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
What a story. I'm sure you look at other businesses and you can see the holes in their business.
Yeah.
We were just talking about in the airport, like I can't even eat in any of these damn places because their standards are so low, and I just can't trust. Just watching how things move in Atlanta was just mind-boggling to me, that they can have these restaurants that are even open in an airport that are so filthy and just run so poorly, trash all over the floors. Like, I'm grossed out. I just can't stand low standard stuff. This is all low standard stuff. There's no manager that gives two shits about what's going on. But it's easy for you as a successful person to go around and spot how everyone else does it bad. But if you had to identify, I already think I know my answer, where most people go wrong in their business, especially with their teams, one practice that you're religious to, that you implement, that most people in America don't in business. What would you identify?
Yeah, I would say the one secret, it's not even a secret, but you have to give a shit, right? Like if you have to be somebody who actually cares about your people. Like your people are the ones that are building your business. You're not building it. Your job solely as an owner is to build your people. And in order to do that, not only are you having to invest into them, but you have to take that time to invest into you too. Like, do I want to go run a marathon because I want to run a fucking marathon? Absolutely not. I run a marathon so that I can show up to my people as the best version of myself, right? And when you actually give a shit about your people, it's a requirement you give a shit about yourself and pour into you so you can show up for them every single day. Yeah. And I think a lot of people lose that, and the people on their team or their company, they don't have the give a shit because the people at the top don't.
That's either. A great point.
And it really starts top down consistently, and you have to hold yourself. And you say like putting yourself in the light, like that's going to put that pressure on you. For me, that pressure is already there with my team. I have to show up every day as the best person, the best version of myself. I have to pour everything into it because these guys are looking at me to be the example. Yeah. And if I'm showing up half-assed even one day, what kind of example does that set for them? And that's what consistently is keeping these guys pushed and keeping them rocking.
That's a great answer. I would add to that too that your consistency with sort of the team building meetings that you do that I've been able to sort of witness. A lot of business, you'd be shocked. They do not create sort of the culture of regular meetings where it's like the meeting of the minds. Like there's just all the energies in there. You'd be shocked how long people go without having sort of meetings to make sure you're always on the same page. Yeah. It's just kind of it seems like a no-brainer, but it's something that is like, your business couldn't exist without it.
No.
You're so religious to that process.
Yeah.
To this meeting, the sales meeting, the trainings meeting, like these are all there to sort of build sort of like the morale. It's there to build the character, the fiber of the group is sort of built inside those meetings, like retuning everyone, recalibrating everyone, getting everyone to those new levels. And that is really a standard of the leader to do that. Because if you don't do it, they won't.
Yeah.
They won't do it. If you don't hold a manager to a standard, those meetings will die so quick. Yeah. They just, we don't need to do it. You know what I mean? We'll just sort of show up. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't work. So again, it kind of ties into what you said, I think. But I've watched those meetings that you do. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's fun.
And you turn it into like an event every week. But it's religious enough almost that it becomes something that is such a core part of the culture building experience. It's so religious in your business, and you can't do without it. Do you have any qualms if you had to like kind of maybe indicate anything that sort of you have to consider as you step in the light? Any sort of like hesitation with that process? I think that's important to really identify sort of any of the stories you tell yourself about why you may not want to go out there and, some of the stuff you struggle with about building a personal brand where you tell it all, expose yourself to the world, anything along those lines?
No, I don't think that there's no real limiting beliefs for me. Like being at 24 and doing what I've already done, like I don't see there being a limit. And as you know, like Warren Buffett, nobody knew him until he was like 60 some years old, 70 years old. I have so much time, assuming nothing horrible happens, knock on wood. I have so much time to accomplish what I'm looking to accomplish. So there's not a doubt in my mind that I'm going to get there. And Elon Musk, he talks about entrepreneurship. He says that it's like chewing on glass and staring into the abyss. Because as the owner, as the CEO, or as the person that's building the brand, you are sitting there chewing on glass, and you're just taking all the everything that nobody wants to do. It trickles down to somebody, and at the end of the day, it ends up being you that has to do all that every single day. Just work through the problems. There's problems delivered every day, and it's gonna be the same way with the brand. Is I'm gonna have problems delivered every single day. I'm gonna be staring off into the abyss, not knowing at all how long it's gonna take to actually pay off. But I'm so pumped for it. Like that process and how much character goes into that and how much development comes out of that. If it's something that takes 6 years, you're going to have an insane amount of growth. If it comes to you in a year, if it comes to you in a month, like you're not going to have near as much growth as if you put your all into it for 5-6 years and then nothing paid off, right? And then eventually you'll see that, which happened with Ed Milet. So for me, I don't think that I don't have any expectation of what I feel like it needs to happen within a year. I have goals, of course. But for me, I'm just pumped for the process to just dive into it and just start learning because it's all brand new. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you hear so many people talk about why personal brand is so important, but so few people do it. And I had to sort of be honest about what I've seen with people that don't build brand. And these are some of the wealthiest people that I've ever met in a lot of cases. Now, a lot of times they're much older and they so I'll tell you mine, if this may be helpful. One of the things that I still to this day am challenged with is people that I greatly admire and respect. They don't necessarily like me doing all this. And it's something I always battle with. Some of these are my partners. Some of the, it's just like, it's just that insecurity that I feel around sharing my whole world, my whole life, everything that I'm doing, knowing that a lot of people don't really like this. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of personal relationships that are private, and now I'm out there telling the whole world everything. And, it's just kind of looked at down upon around a lot of people that are more private. And here I am exposing everything. The other fear is that employees, they see this great lifestyle you have while they're making chips, you know what I mean? Like just understanding sort of the nature of how it really works in the world, business, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not all of us are at like VRBOs on the ocean, with a bunch of guys working out all day and eating steaks, and door knocking and making thousands of dollars. Like it's just not real for most people in business around the world. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think it's a unique culture where you can have a great impact, but you have to be really cautious about, these are some of the insecurities about like, I'm showing this great lifestyle while this person is, struggling with his wife to pay their bills. It's a little bit like, and again, part of the process of branding is like, oh, I can do this, you can do this too. Mm-hmm. Not sort of hiding your life, being the brands that do the best, they kind of just give it all. Mm-hmm. And it's not from like a braggadocious sort of connection. It's just the reality. This is my life. I built this. This is how I did it. And here's how you can do it. Sort of inspire that next generation of people that want more out of life. They're going to fight. They're going to give. But there's a whole other side of that comes with it, and it's tricky. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so you could avoid it. I think when you're young, you may do it the wrong way, especially when you're young and you have money, or you're perceived to be young. And, it's this line, but you see all the guys out there, there's the Ferrari, they're getting all the views with all the toys, mm-hmm. Showing what's possible. Cause that's what's going to get most of these young cats right there. That's what's going to get him to follow you. Yeah. Is you got a life that he wants to live. But if you're too scared to show it because you're too afraid of what this person thinks or this person thinks or how it's going to make you look, these are the truest battles I can say about success is how much should you show? How much should you not show? Mm-hmm. Like how much should I hide from the world? There's discretion there that's really important when you're building a real brand. You know what I mean? But there's different ways to go about it. And so the more I've sort of like gotten into it myself, the more I've had to become clear on like, okay, what is too much? What do I not want to show? What should I hold back on? What was something that burned me? What is something that got me in trouble? all these things come along with it because relationships are incredibly important. You do not want to start burning the most valuable relationships you have because all of a sudden you're perceived by people that don't understand this world is like, oh, he changed. He's so arrogant. Like, here it comes, all the naysayers, all the noise. But a lot of time that noise comes from people that are very important.
Yeah.
And that is where it gets tricky. That's when, especially with me in real estate, all the stuff I'm doing, like I need to have a low profile. And here I am like,
yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's worth having this conversation out loud. And again, I think it's different in your industry for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think that, and you do this really well, at least from our conversations, but the only ones that I'm really worried about are the people in my company. Like the people that I'm leading are really the only ones whose opinions, in my opinion, would actually dictate me changing anything. Yeah. And when you build it the right way, and the reason I see you do this very well is when you're building your company and you're building your brand and you're building your people, you're selling them on the fact that, like with furniture, you can get into a moving business, right? And you're 100%. Setting these guys up and they have something that is bigger than where they're at right now, right. Consistently in front of them. So when they see that, to me, I'm open with all of our numbers in the company. Like when we do a quarterly meeting, we're open on all numbers. Everybody knows exactly what's going on. They know what margins and stuff we're at, what percentage they get paid off of revenue, everything. And even the guys that are W-2, like Andy, he's on salaried versus the sales guys. And like for me, I'm sitting here shitting on 9 to 5s. I'm saying don't go to college, like don't take a salary, right. Like all this. But the reason I say that is because it's done so wrong. And the companies don't actually give a shit to grow you, to build you as a person like you do, or like in my company like I do. So for him, it's like, yeah, you're in that salaried position. You may not be making as much as the sales guys, but imagine where it's going to get to as we scale this thing.
I think you're dead on. Yeah. And you don't have a battle that I think I might have, is that I had so many business relationships with people that don't do social media, that are in a different generation. Yeah. And they hear me and they see me in different places, and 100%. They don't talk about it, but I can just tell these. And again, these are highly prized relationships in my life. And again, like this battle, I think is more prevalent than people know, that especially when it's coming from someone like my situation. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you have that battle. But I think it's what a lot of the stuff that holds people back from being able to sort of go out and like speak truth. They're so afraid of getting canceled, and the second people do, they get resistance. Mm-hmm. Their family doesn't support them. Who does he think he is? Like, oh, here it comes. And, you get that sense of it up. So, but the people that have the courage to sort of do it, the ones that actually break through and really become sort of like someone that has a really powerful impact in the world, where their voice actually really carries some weight. Never will you hear those people saying that it was a bad decision. Yeah. Oftentimes, that was the greatest link to their greatest and highest and best use in life. Their greatest purpose, their greatest impact was sort of through stepping up in front of the plate. But one last thought is, when you think about people that don't do social media, well, it's like, well, look at Trump. Like a lot of these people support Trump. It's like, well, he did it. Mm-hmm. He's okay, but I'm not. Yeah. You look at Warren Buffett. He's actually been in the light for the last 70 years. Every day he's out there. Trust me, he's a media whore. Mm-hmm. Even though his temperament may not seem like it, trust me, he didn't build that company, Berkshire Hathaway, off being quiet. Mm-hmm. I guarantee it. He knew what he was doing. He's a brand. Yeah. You look at Steve Jobs and Apple. You look at some of the greatest business leaders and CEOs. You look at some of the greatest sports figures in the world, Tom Brady. Well, if it's not too good for him, why do you think you can't do it? Mm-hmm. Like, I think the people that are at the best, if they're doing it, you should do it too. Yeah. Like, it's a good sign that you're onto something good. But again, like, you have to get past all those imposter thoughts that are going to hold you back. It'll be cool to see what you do this year. Part of doing the podcast was to be able to sort of expose the whole story, open up your mind, elevate you, position you the way you deserve, and then really give people a reason to come root you on and watch you, as we sort of tackle as our number one priority of going out and build a brand that is as powerful and as big as it can get. It'll be amazing to see what you do in a year. You put out the kind of content and energy into the brand the same way you have into the systems of your business and your people. I think you'll be shocked how much ROI and inadvertently comes at the end of the day from taking this on as a number one priority. Yeah. It'd be cool to watch.
It's going to be huge.
I think you guys can all see what I see now. Can you see that? Just from this one interview, man, like how you answer these questions. You got to remind the audience, this is a 24-year-old. So I don't know how old, our young listeners are, if you're watching Adam, and I don't know if like you have parents out there. We got a lot of parents out there. Like, this is possible. This is the stuff I think that moves the needle and that should be promoted. when kids are struggling and suffering so bad. Any last piece of advice you want to get out there to maybe someone that's lost, someone where you used to be? We didn't really have time to get into the depths of your story. We'll probably do that in other content, but if someone that is struggling and is sort of lost and hasn't found anything to grip onto, what would you say to that person?
Yeah. Start being selfish. I mean, there's not enough. If you ever want to do anything for anybody, you have to make that investment into yourself first. You can't give what you don't have already. And to me, anybody that's struggling, even if you hit 18 years old, you should immediately be investing into who you are. You should immediately be selfish and put a lot of things to the side, because that's the only way that you're ever actually, A, going to have a life that you want to live, or B, be able to impact anybody else's. And so many people skip that step because of the outside pressures that they have, whether that's family, whether that's friends, whatever it is, that are consistently trying to hold you back and keep you close to them, which by accident, they don't always try to, but they're trying to keep you as the best version of yourself that serves them best, not the best version of yourself that serves you best, right? And you just have to break out of that immediately as fast as humanly possible and just make those investments into you. And it's almost impossible that you're not going to improve your quality of life.
Yeah, go work for Adam is what I heard. You're 20, you want to get your stuff together, sack up and go call Adam.
Yeah.
Where can we send anyone that wants to work with you, that's interested in being part of your team, that wants to invest with you?
Yeah.
Where should we send them?
Yeah, Instagram's always best. It's just Adam_Kramer, Kremer.
Yeah, on this show, we'll always have, you can always reach out to me. I can connect. We'll put contact in the show notes. But thank you, man. It's be cool to see we do. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing me on. This is amazing.
Let's go, man. All right, thank you guys. If you enjoy the show, we can't do this without you. Please share it, like it, love it, comment, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you guys don't share the message, then we don't exist. So thank you for your support. This is a cool one. It's a 24-year-old. Let's go help promote his message and inspire the kids that are out there and show them what's possible. We'll see you next time. Thank you.